folks, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about humor, but not just how to be funny or how to become a comedian. We're going to be talking about the difference between positive and negative humor. Once I became aware of the idea of positive and negative humor, I was really curious. Once I looked into it, I found out that there really wasn't much out there as far as what is positive humor and what is negative humor. Positive humor tends to build people up, and negative humor tends to tear people down. Now, we're not always just going to use one type of humor. It's not that we're going to always use positive humor or always use negative humor. People tend to use a mix of the two. Professor Rod Martin has been studying humor for over 3 decades. In an interview with Rod Martin, he says, "I think the difference between healthy and unhealthy forms of humor can be very subtle. For example, I think there's a difference between self-defeating humor and self-deprecating humor. Self-deprecating humor is a healthy form of humor in which you don't take yourself too seriously and are able to laugh at your own mistakes in a self-accepting way. I think this comes out of a healthy self-esteem." In the research I did, I was able to find one study that looked at how people flirting or that were interested in each other used humor to try to attract the other person. This study that was published in Europe's Journal of Psychology showed that participants' romantic interests increased when they were on the receiving end of humor, particularly positive humor, and that unlike positive humor, producing negative humor, such as teasing or self-targeted humor, carries a high risk. It could be easily misinterpreted or yield undesired assumptions about underlying traits. In another article I found, it presented positive and negative humor in this way. It said that positive humor lifts others up, laughs with others, makes it safe to admit our frailties, honors differences, is gentle-spirited, is humble, is open, vulnerable, and safe. Negative humor, on the other hand, puts others down, laughs at the expense of others, humiliates, discounts, and ridicules, stereotypes people as being all alike, is mean-spirited, is self-aggrandizing, is defensive, competitive, and offensive, polarizes the listener, and challenges the right of others to think differently. Yes, we find negative humor funny oftentimes, but we don't really think about how does it affect the other people around us and what does it do to our relationships or the way that person feels about us. If you do a YouTube search on positive and negative humor, you won't find much, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. One video I did find that I thought was really well done was on Ellen DeGeneres. I highly recommend you check out this video for some more examples and some actual footage of how positive humor can be used. So what do we do about stopping negative humor? It's really common. It's all around us. Our friends probably use it frequently. So what can we do about it? Well, here are a few ideas. The first thing that you can do is you could use a quote to give perspective. You don't have to blow out my candle to make yours glow brighter. You could also use an I statement. When someone is about to tell an ethnic joke, simply say, "I really don't want to hear it." Making an I statement, for example, "I don't appreciate jokes like that," or "I feel uncomfortable with ethnic jokes," can be a powerful way to take responsibility for yourself and to let the other person know the impact of negative humor. Another thing you can do is just don't respond. Without the reinforcement of laughter, the behavior may disappear by itself. The last thing that we can do is we can ask the joke teller to explain their joke. This does 2 things simultaneously. First of all, it kills the joke. Whenever you have to explain your humor, it totally makes it not funny anymore. And secondly, it helps the joke teller to become more aware of what he or she is saying. An innocent request like this can be a really smart approach. Now, some people will say, "But negative humor is so funny, it's just so hilarious." Is it funny for the person being criticized, belittled, or humiliated? Is it funny for the bystander or bystanders who are laughing only to avoid being the next target? What if, as a principle, we said, "Being funny is important to me, but not hurting people is more important. I will strive to be funny insofar as I don't harm anyone else in the process." This sounds like a good principle for life. I will have as much fun and do as much cool stuff as possible insofar as I don't harm myself or anyone else in the process. Throughout our entire life, we need to make decisions about how we treat other people and how we treat ourselves. There are many things that would be really fun to do, but that would just throw all caution to the wind. We're constantly making decisions about what risks we want to take and if we're okay with putting ourselves at risk and other people at risk. This is just one example of how we're using free will and self-control to have as much fun as humanly possible, but while at the same time staying within boundaries that fit our conscious. In another article I found called The High Cost of Negative Humor, the authors state, "It is easy to be a critic. It doesn't take much talent to find fault with others. Responsible dialogue, on the other hand, takes great skill, energy, intelligence, and insight. To be playful and humorous within the context of respectful dialogue is an art form that reveals the highest sense of character, intelligence, and emotional well-being. It is a goal worthy of all our efforts to learn to achieve. The world will be a better place should we accept this demanding challenge." I love this quote. I think it's so true that to be funny takes a certain level of intelligence and clever wit. And if you can use that in a way that builds people up rather than tearing them down, that's just next level. The next time you're watching a movie or hanging out with friends, try to be aware of the humor being used. Does it build people up or tear them down? If you didn't know humor had a high road, you do now. The bar has been raised. The next time you put a smile on someone's face, the next time you make someone laugh, see if you can do it with positive humor.